Hey everyone, Colin here. I hope all is well. Today I'll be seeing how closely I can make this sound like this. So let's get into it. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It would really help support the channel. I've been curious about this experiment for a while now because I've been asked so many times if it's worth investing in a small home studio setup. And obviously, having dedicated recording equipment like preamps and microphones is going to sound better, but it kind of got me thinking, just what could I do to the iPhone to make it sound as good as possible? And what would that actually sound like? So today I'm going to be recording the same performance once through my iPhone 6 mic just directly onto GarageBand on the phone, and then the second through my SE Electronics SE8 through my Focusrite Clarett. And then I'm going to edit both in PreSonus Studio One. So let me do a quick recording and let's get started. Alright, so I'm in Studio One and I have both of my tracks pulled up. I have the SE8 track in red and then the iPhone track in blue. And I'm going to play each one of these processed for you so you can see how they came out. So here's the iPhone track. Not bad. Now let's try the SE8. Let's go back to roughly the same section. So they both sound pretty good. And on first listen, you might not notice too much of a difference, especially if you're not listening over headphones or studio monitors. But there are some kind of huge glaring errors with the iPhone recording. If I play the iPhone recording and pull up my EQ, you can see that I've done a lot of just kind of subtractive EQ and things to get rid of kind of some of these high ringy frequencies. So that's kind of the biggest problem I've noticed with the iPhone, is that when I listened to it back, it had a ton of noise, especially up here around the 10K. It's kind of like this weird hiss. So if I turn the plug-in on and off, you'll kind of see what I mean. And especially if you turn up your volume, it's really present. Now, the other problem I noticed with the iPhone is that the treble sounds really, really brittle. I tried to cut as much as I could because there were all these kind of weird, harsh digital frequencies present in the recording, and I was pretty much afraid to boost anything around 5K. It would just basically sound like an ice pick to your ears. Whereas the SE8, I kind of just did my normal EQ, kind of taking out weird resonances that are present in my tiny room, but really nothing out of the ordinary. You can also hear so much less noise. That's kind of the biggest benefit to recording with a real microphone through a good preamp. And you can also see that I really didn't do too much EQ at all. Kind of my usual roll off around the bass frequencies just to get kind of noise out of there. And then a couple up here, and if I really wanted to, I could probably get away with boosting ever so slightly, just for a little bit of extra, brightness in the treble. But overall, I was really surprised how well the iPhone did. And I think the finishing touch was really when I added a nice reverb to both tracks. That really helped it come together. So I'm going to play each track again, completely raw, and then I'm going to put the plugins back on. So first the SE8 with no plugins enabled. Reverb really, really helps. Now the iPhone, first with no plugins. Let's back this up a little bit. Now with plugins. And again, that reverb helps so much to bring that mic to life. I was just really impressed by how the iPhone turned out. But again, the SE8 just to me sounds so much better, especially when you get into EQing it. And it just has a much more professional sound. And honestly, the biggest takeaway I've gotten from this little experiment is just how much the source matters to the actual recording. Too often people try to add a bunch of plugins or buy a bunch of mics, preamps, and things, trying to chase a certain sound, when honestly a lot of it just comes down to the player and the guitar. And the guitar I happen to be playing is a really, really nice, just professional grade luthier double top made by Aaron Ringo. Cedar, and just has a really warm, sweet sound. And also I play guitar with just very, very little nail. So I try to get as little nail noise as possible just so it's super warm. And I think that really comes through in the recording. And I do think that that's partially why the iPhone sounds as good as it does. Now, if I switched out, maybe a cheaper guitar and I just hadn't filed my nails, I think the iPhone would really have a lot of flaws, and probably a lot more flaws than you saw in this test. But overall, this was a pretty cool experiment. All right, that's my time. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, or topics you want me to cover in future videos like this one, please leave them in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.